Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Inspo Pod with me, Bethany Irish. In today's episode, I want to delve a little bit deeper into my journey and how I found myself kind of where I am in this place of sort of happiness and contentment. And obviously, there's an understanding that everybody's journey will be different, and what works for me might not work for everybody else. But in sharing my journey and what's brought me here, may help someone, may inspire, or may just be interesting to listen to, I guess. Probably not, but we'll give it a go. Um, so yeah, essentially, I'm 34 years old, and I've recently been told by my therapist that this is the first time in my entire life that I've ever had a secure attachment with myself, which I find very, very interesting. But it's also really, really nice to hear that, it's super comforting, I guess, and rewarding to hear someone say, you're so happy, you're really secure. Because I don't think I've ever really heard that or felt that before. Um, and to give you kind of a bit of background on my life story, so childhood was pretty traumatic. My dad was quite sick when I was very young with cancer. Um, and then my mum and dad separated, divorced. And then there was a lot of moving around, a lot of kind of, um, let's say, situations within the home that weren't very safe and weren't very nice environment for a child to be in, I suppose. So, without going too far into it, kind of a lot of childhood trauma there. And then sort of growing up, there was difficult relationships with certain family members. Um, and then obviously into the teens, we all get that kind of stage for our teenage years where, you're insecure, you're struggling. And I think for me personally, with all of the things I'd been through as a child, things that I've seen, things I've witnessed, um, things that have happened, kind of led me to being a teenager who really didn't know herself, was very, very lost, very confused, did a lot of things I would never do now, which kind of sounds obvious because at 34, you probably wouldn't do the same things you did as a teenager. But, things that looking back, I'm like, wow. Firstly, was that even me? Secondly, how embarrassing. But then thirdly, if that's the word, I guess there's a lot of shame with a lot of things as well. And I've definitely discussed this in therapy where, there's certain times in my life I look back on, even in my mid-20s, and even not necessarily as far back as teenage years, but even as close as in my 20s, look back and feel shame at some of the things I've done or some of the ways I've been or situations I've put myself in even. Um, or even just ways I've like had a lack of respect for myself or a lack of love for myself. So I guess that's kind of the teenage years through to the 20s. And then I think my kind of journey of self-discovery, so to speak, started in the mid-20s. And I realized I was kind of suffering anxiety symptoms. I'd get really nervous. I had like sweaty palms. I'd get really red in the face. I would struggle with like public speaking, struggle in social settings, to the point where sometimes if I was at university and there was a big group or a big group project, I just wouldn't turn up, or I would just walk in and get really anxious and run out the room again, which I think is actually quite common. A lot of people I think kind of experience these things. So that was initially what sent me to therapy. And in going to therapy, I realized there's a hell of a lot to unpack from childhood and just from life. And I think one of the main things that I've learned is that everything you go through in life stores in your body. So that explains why certain things in adulthood, you can be triggered by something and not really know why. And it's a core memory. I don't know if it's a core memory, but it's a memory um deep within. And your body's remembering a situation and it's reacting. So I guess an example, an easy example of this would be if you go to make a speech on a stage and you trip up the step, even though no one really cares and they're probably over it and you probably made an amazing speech after, that's going to stay with you. And then every time you go to walk up some steps to a stage, your body's going to be filled with that and that adrenaline and kind of that panic. And you get kind of anxiety symptoms because you're like, oh my God, we're here again. Like, this is what happened last time. Um, and it's kind of a similar thing. So things you go through as a child, they store in your body. And even though you might not remember them, they might not be in your memory anymore that you're aware of, you still have that same response. So that was really interesting for me. And that's really helped me as well to understand kind of like my body and my responses to things. So that was a major thing for me. But then, so that was kind of mid-20s, sort of 25, so nearly 10 years ago. And I've pretty much done therapy on and off ever since, and I love it. As I said, might not work for everyone, but for me, I find it's really helpful just to even unpack your week, even if you don't necessarily need it. I've had weeks where I've been absolutely fine. Even more recently, I'm ecstatically happy, like everything's great. And I think I don't really need this session, but I find it so, for want of a better word, therapeutic to kind of just talk through everything and just offload my thoughts, just round up I call it rounding up the week. And I guess maybe that's because I do therapy on a Friday, so that's kind of helpful, but it can just be kind of a roundup of how you felt, what you've done that week. It doesn't have to be, you know, significantly traumatic. It can just be unpacking things that have come up for you, things that have crossed your mind, just speaking them out loud. And what another thing that I've found really um enlightening is that we always have the answers within us. So most times I'm actually telling my therapist the answer. I'm not asking her, I'm telling her. I'm saying, well, this is this, and that happened because of that. And I think this is happening because of this. And I guess that's happening because maybe my subconscious is saying this, and I'm doing this, and I feel like this. And she's just there going, yep, tick, you've answered it. Um, which I guess in one way I'm kind of lucky I have quite good self-awareness and quite good understanding of emotions and that kind of those kind of processes. But also, I think we all do have the answers within us. Sometimes we just don't know it. And it's that process of talking things through that gets you to the answer. Sometimes I can start the conversation with, well, I don't know why this happens. Why is this happening? I'm so stressed. This is really crap. And then just through talking it through within 5 minutes, I'm like, oh my God, it makes sense now that I've said it out loud. And it's just that process of talking. So I know therapy is not for everyone, but for me, I found it really, really helpful. Um, so yeah, that's something I definitely recommend giving a go. And you don't always get the right therapist straight off the bat. It's like a relationship, you have to find the right one. And I think my therapist is my best friend. To be honest, with me personally, anyone that knows me, everyone is my therapist because I will voice note everybody 4 to 6 minute long voice notes about my entire life. Those of you that know me that might be listening will be like, yes, Bethany, this is true. Um, but yeah, my actual therapist is my best friend, and I use my actual best friends as therapists as well. And I think it's really nice, it's really nice to offload your thoughts, your feelings, etc. So yeah, therapy is something I've really, really found useful. Another thing I wanted to kind of talk about along that journey is kind of energy. And again, this isn't going to be relevant to everyone, but for me personally, I'm someone that's very in tune with energy. I'm quite an empathetic person. I have a lot of empathy. I feel other people's feelings. I'd say a strength of mine is I'm quite good at putting myself in other people's shoes in all scenarios and kind of knowing how they feel or how they would feel or understanding them. And that's a really good thing. It helps me to do things that are going to make people feel good and to not make people feel crap. But then the negatives with that are, it's quite overwhelming for me. And also sometimes I can kind of think how someone else might be feeling and kind of predict how I think they're going to feel or react, when really they're not thinking or feeling that way, that they might not be as sensitive as me or as emotional as me. So I'm there panicking, trying to predict, oh my God, but they might feel like this. Oh my God, but they might do that. And really all I'm doing is making myself stressed. Um, so it can be a good thing and a bad thing. But in that, I found that when I'm around certain people, if the energy's off, I really notice and it really, really affects me. It really gets me down. And it actually, I guess I've kind of been on this journey of self-discovery for years now and kind of finding where I want to be in life. And I will do a lot more episodes on this because I feel like you can't really unpack this in 40 minutes, Um, but it kind of all came to a head last year when I was signed off work with depression. And I was doing really well. Like I was getting better and better and better as the years went on. Life was great. And then I kind of just got to this place where I was just so stressed and I just lost enjoyment out of life. And so this is 2023, we're going back to 2023, signed off work. I was crying every day at work. I was crying every day at home. I didn't have enjoyment in anything. I didn't want to go anywhere. I didn't want to hang out with my friends. And as stupid as this sounds, the final straw for me was I went to Ibiza, which is somewhere that's very special to me. I love it there. It's very close to my heart. Um, it's like a second home, and it's somewhere you go for fun. The whole point of Ibiza is fun. Anyone that knows Ibiza knows that that's the point. It's fun. You don't go there. Well, some people do go there to relax, but majoritively you go there to have music, to have drinks with friends, to be in the sun. It's a very hedonistic place. And I went there and I just didn't enjoy a second of it. I was off with my friends. I fell out with people. I didn't want to get out of bed. I felt ill. I had headaches. I had an upset stomach. And it just was just a nightmare. It really was a nightmare. Um, and I think I guess during that holiday, I kind of thought, well, what's going on? What's wrong with me? Like something's not right. If I'm not enjoying this, like I kind of was thinking, oh, well, how I was last week when I was at work and work was super stressful kind of makes sense. But now I'm in Ibiza, I shouldn't be feeling like this anymore. And I was crying all day, every day, and just like stressing myself out. And came back from Ibiza and just really wasn't happy, was really at a low ebb. And I went to the doctors and I said, I think I need something for anxiety. Like I need a tablet because I'm really unhappy. And I got signed off work with depression and I got prescribed sertraline, which I didn't take in the end, which I'll go into in a minute. Um, but that was a real like turning point for me because I think I started to unpack in the 6 weeks I had off the reasons why I'd got to that place and how to make myself happy again. And I think it was really, really good for me. And during that time, I read a lot of books. I decided there was a lot of things I wanted to achieve. This was kind of October time. I decided 2024, I wanted to write more. I used to do writing. I don't do that much anymore. I decided I wanted to do that. I decided a podcast was something I'd always been passionate about doing. Wanted to do that. Here we are, guys. Ching ching. Um, and I wanted to learn to ride a bike. And I wanted to just find happiness and just be content. But then the most important thing for me at the time was getting away from where I worked because there was what I felt a lot of bad energy in that place. Um, an energy maybe that's not necessarily bad, but energy that I just don't vibe with. And for me, that's really important that I do vibe with people's energy because I feel energy so strongly. I'm the kind of person that if I walk into a room and the energy's off, it can really send me under. Like I can feel really, really crap instantly. Um, and it was just stressful. I'd got myself into a stage where I was stressing myself out over things I didn't need to stress myself out over. So I can't blame work for that because I did it to myself. And I was on fight or flight mode like forever. Like high cortisol, fight or flight, didn't know how to calm down, didn't know how to relax, didn't enjoy anything. And I just made the decision in that time off. I'm not going to go back. Obviously, I did have to go back to work for a little bit, but I was like, I really need to move on now. And it was scary as hell. I'm not going to lie, scary as hell. Like, I need to find a new job. And I said to myself, do you know what? I'm just going to hand my notice in as soon as I go back without a job to go to, and I'm just going to make it work. And it's funny because since then, I've had a couple of jobs. So the job that I picked obviously wasn't right, but that doesn't matter. I'm so glad I made that leap. I'm so glad I made that plunge, took that plunge, and it was the best thing I ever did. And I think sometimes you really need that time to stop. And if you don't do it, your body will just stop you anyway. If you don't stop and like listen to yourself. And that time to stop really helps you like recalibrate and kind of figure out who you are and what you want. And I find that really useful. Um, Quick note on sertraline, because I said I'd go back to that. I did a lot of research into that, and I know there's a lot of people, maybe people that are listening, that that's really helped. And I know people have taken it and it's done its job. But for me personally, I'm someone that doesn't like to take tablets. I don't like to take anything that kind of alters, I'm not even on contraception at the moment because I don't like to alter my brain or my hormones or anything like that. I like to try and find solutions sort of within myself. And I do understand that that takes a lot of strength and that sometimes you don't have that strength to do that. So sometimes you need this help, I get that. But for me personally, I just really wanted to try and find that without relying on something because I knew once I relied on that, that was going to be it. And then I wouldn't know if I was happy again or whether it was just the tablet. So I really wanted to be really authentic with it and see if I could find my happiness again without that. And I did. Um, and it was just kind of the side effects that I researched that kind of was kind of saying that you kind of lose your highs as well as your lows. And I've always thought that with kind of antidepressants or anxiety tablets, I don't want to lose the highs. I'm very up and down. I like when I'm high, very excitable. And as much as I wanted at that point in time to lose the lows, I didn't ever want to lose those highs. So that was just a personal choice. Um, but yeah, I managed it. And I think since then it's been a kind of a journey of doing what has always nourished my soul. So to get a little bit into that, I've always wanted to work for myself. I've never wanted to work 9 to 5. And then this year, 2024, if you're not listening to this in 2024 is the year. Um, I always wanted to be self-employed and I took the plunge. And it's one of the best things I ever did. I can charge a high day rate for the job that I'm good at, the job that I enjoy. I'm working currently with one of my best friends, who's an amazing mentor, teacher, like leader and friend, ultimately a best friend. Um, I've had a few jobs previously that I've just not felt that kind of energy and support with. And this time I do. I'm doing my podcast. Here we are, obviously. I'm getting back into writing, getting back into voiceovers, and just doing all the things that like I feel really nourish my soul. And for anyone out there that's kind of feeling like, they don't know what they're good at, they don't know what they want. I've felt for many years, probably decades. I mean, I'm only 34, but decades, that I don't have a talent. I've always thought, I just don't have a talent. I'm not a dancer. I'm not a scientist. I don't have a degree in, I don't know, bio something. I don't know, whatever. I'm not a nurse. I'm not good with blood. I'm not good at any of that kind of stuff. I'm not there's just there's just nothing really that kind of stood out for me for a long, long time. And then I've got to this place where I'm like, what do I enjoy? What do I think I can contribute to the world? And let me tell you, I can freaking talk for England. Like I can talk and talk and talk and talk. I'm not very funny. That was the first thing that put me off doing a podcast was I'm not very funny. Like people are going to be bored or they're not going to be entertained. But then I realized that's just me making an excuse and like putting myself down. Like you don't have to be funny. Um, and then weirdly, some people do find me funny in day-to-day life, probably not when I'm talking about this stuff, but so who knows? Maybe I'll find a way to like translate that to the podcast. But I think I just got to a place of like self-confidence and self-belief where if I want to do something, I'm just going to do it. and I'm going to believe in myself. So I think for anyone out there that's kind of struggling with what to do with their life, or you will, I think the first thing is you will get there. You will, if you just keep, if you can try and go off track and try and do other things, but ultimately your heart, I think, will always bring you back to what you really truly want and desire. And if it keeps bringing you back, or you keep finding you're unhappy and you're going around cycles, just listen to that. Because I've been going from job to job my whole life, and people keep joking with me, like, are you ever going to stick at something? And at first I was like, oh my God, I never stick at anything. I'm such a bad person. And now I'm just like, it's because it's just not meant for me. I'm just not meant to do a 9 to 5 in these things I've been doing. And yeah, I'm good at some of them. And yeah, some of them I really enjoy. But I think if you're not finding your feet, you've really got to go back to whatever your soul is pulling you to and follow, what really, I keep using this phrase, but what sets your soul on fire? Because I think it's really important. If something isn't setting your soul alight and you're not jumping out of bed in the morning to do it, you might be in the wrong job. And listen, we all have to do crap jobs. Like if none of us did a crap job, like who'd take the bins out? Like who'd be a cleaner? Like, do you get what I mean? But I think the whole purpose of life in my mind is for everyone to kind of go through a stage of doing these kind of jobs to learn and grow and kind of meet people and progress. And then you eventually find what you want to do and you find your happiness and your peace. That's my view on life. Who knows if I'm right or wrong. Um, but yeah, I guess that's kind of what I think about finding your passion is just following that kind of gut feeling and that pull. If something's pulling you towards it, do it. And let me tell you, when I started this podcast as well, the first one I recorded, I was nervous as hell. I was like, how am I going to record myself? And I made the decision to record, as you can see, if you're watching, video as well as audio. So I got all the equipment, all the gear, no idea. And that makes it more intense because I can chat for England. I really can. But then it was like, well, how am I going to look at myself and record myself without cringing to the high heels when I'm doing it? And yeah, you kind of get over it pretty quick. Like, I think with anything in life, once you start doing it, the anxiety goes and the enjoyment comes. A good example of this is actually, I said when I was signed off work, I decided I was going to ride a bike in 2024. I've decided to do that. I did it, started in January. Now recording this in August. So it's been 8 months and I can ride a bike quite confidently now. And let me tell you, January, February, March were quite busy months for me. I didn't have much time. I was probably going on a bike once every 2 weeks, trying to get my confidence up. And I don't think that's enough time, enough regularity to like really get your confidence up. But then over the summer months, I've really kind of pushed it a bit more. And once you get past the anxiety and the fear of something, that's when the love comes. Like I love getting on a bike now. Back in January and February, I was like, I hate this. I hate it, but I know I want to achieve it, but I hate it. Like I do, like if there was a choice between getting on a bike and walking, I'd just go, no, 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 no. I'm just gonna walk because my anxiety just goes, no, 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 no. No, 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 no. But now I'm like, oh, can I get on a bike? Do this journey on a bike? Oh, let me do that. And I get like a full sense of freedom when I'm on a bike and I love it. I'm not quite fully there yet. It's not like the full confidence of like, oh my God, let me get on a bike. I'm loving life. Watch me fly down the main road. It's more of like, let me just like totter around the park. But then once I've been going for a few minutes, I'm like, oh, I'm so happy right now. I'm really enjoying myself. So I think that applies to anything. So like with this podcast, it was pulling me and pulling me and pulling me for years. And then when I initially did it, it was like the first time I kind of recorded, I was like, I didn't want to jump out of bed and do it because the anxiety was there and the self-doubt. So I didn't have that like, oh my God, I've got to jump out of bed and do it. But that comes with time, is what I'm trying to say. So I think you need to find something that you do want to get out of bed for in the morning, but also be very aware that, you know, you're not going to want to jump out of bed and do it instantly. Like if there's anxiety or doubt there, that doesn't necessarily mean you're doing the wrong thing. If you've been thinking about something for a long time, but you've got that anxiety and doubt, that's just nerves, that's just, ah. And if you're someone like me, then you've probably got a hell of a lot of these anxieties and nerves. So, yeah, welcome to life in the fast lane with anxiety. Um, my next thing on my list, guys, just to let you know, and I'll keep you posted on how this goes. Quite a few people have told me I might be neurodivergent and I might have ADHD. I don't know if I do because I've Googled it and I know you shouldn't Google things for the answer, but there's quite a few things on the list that I don't have. But then there's quite a few that I do. And if you listen to a voice note from me of my absolute ramblings for 4 minutes straight, you'll probably think, oh my God, this girl has ADHD. Can't finish a sentence, jumps from topic to topic, just like blah, 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 a million miles an hour, which is why I'm surprised I'm actually holding a conversation with myself on this podcast right now. But I know that it does present differently in different people. So I'm really keen just to kind of get a test. So that'll be the next thing I kind of look at doing. Um, just because there's certain traits in my personality that I'm a little bit confused by. And it could well be that they are traits of like due to trauma and due to different scenarios from the past that maybe it's an anxious thing or like for example, I have a thing where I have to fill a silence, I have to talk. And that I already know comes from being a child and kind of certain awkward situations. Won't go into that whole story now, but there's a reason for that. And I know what the reason is. So it's kind of figuring out if my other little quirky personality traits are due to similar reasons or if I am neurodivergent. So that'll be the next thing. So yeah, stay tuned for that, guys. It's all a freaking barrel of laughs over here. It's actually not. I find myself so boring to listen to. So if any of you have made it this far in the episode, congrats. Um, but yeah, that's kind of it for today, I think. I just wanted to kind of go through a bit more of my story and kind of top line of how I got here into this place where I'm at now, which is a really happy place, really good place to be. The first time, and it's mad to say that, the first time in 34 years of ever having a secure attachment to self. And that's what my therapist calls it, a secure attachment to self. Um, and having that, honestly, I just want to do a cartwheel. If I could cartwheel, I would freaking cartwheel down the road right now. You don't know how much I would love to be able to cartwheel. If I could just cartwheel for a day, that would be, yeah, I'd be in my element. Because why not? If you can cartwheel, then I hate you because I want to do it. It looks fun. I just don't have the body for that. I don't have the body for lots of things. I tried to run a thing called Park Run that we have in London, which is only 5K. And it's like old people, young people, women with pushchairs, dads with pushchairs, people running with their dogs, people with injuries, everyone in between, literally everyone can do this. And you don't have to run the whole way. You can jog, you can walk, you can mix it up, whatever. I made it 1K, guys. So if you're listening to this thinking, Beth has got her shit together and she thinks she's the shit because she's like in this happy place doing this podcast, you are wrong. I cannot run. I have no, like, little to zero athletic ability. Hammer the gym though. Gym I love, Pilates I love, yoga I love, but the athleticism, if that's a word, hell no. Um, but yeah, anyway, back to the topic. If I could cartwheel down the road, I would. It's a really happy place to be. And my wish for everybody and for everybody listening is that through these kind of episodes and through this podcast, you kind of can help get yourself to that place of secure attachment because it's a really nice place to be. And it's so nice, in fact, that I actually said to my therapist recently, I'm worried that I'm going backwards because I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to socialize. I'm always just wanting to be at home and in my happy place. And I'm worried that I'm becoming really antisocial. And she just really nicely explained to me that actually you're just really at peace and you're really nourishing. Like, this is the first time you've probably only been fully secure for a few months. And it's the first time in your life you've really felt that and felt that peace and that contentment. And it's a really weird place to be. Like, I almost feel like I want to disrupt it somehow and like do something crazy. And also I want to feel I feel like, why is everything so smooth? Like, what's happening? What's gonna go wrong? Um, and that's why I'm just being a boring old bin at the moment, because I just want to sit indoors and do nothing. I say do nothing, that's an absolute lie. I'm the busiest person I know. But my doing nothing is working on this podcast, writing, listening to podcasts. You know, I've got loads of other people I listen to that I really thoroughly enjoy. Mel Robbins, obsessed. She's like one of my favorites. Um, but yeah, I just want everyone to get to this place really, and to just find that happiness and contentment. And I wish that for all of you. And I'm going to leave it there for today, guys. But yeah, I wish this for all of you: happiness, contentment, peace, love. Um, and I think in future episodes, I'm going to get into a little bit more about other things I've learned through therapy, my therapist. I'm going to ask her if she's going to come on an episode. It might not happen, but pray for me. She's amazing. Um, and yeah, hopefully I will speak to you all soon. Thank you so much for listening to the Inspo Pod. Um, and have a blessed week. And if anyone's got any questions, please let me know. My email address, I don't think I've mentioned this on an episode before, is bethany@theinspopod.co.uk. Fire me an email whenever, fire your questions at me. Anything you want me to talk about, let me know. If you want to be on the podcast, I'm also open to guests. Wild. So yeah, just drop me a note, comment if you're watching on YouTube, like, subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify, download, add it to your list, share it with your friends. And yeah, hopefully I'll speak to you all very soon. Peace and love.